welcome to We Watch Bad Films, the podcast where, guess what, we watch bad films, so you don't have to. I'm Gary, and with me is Jay.
Hello.
Yeah, that was very high-pitched, very good. If you'd like to follow us, you can do so on Instagram at We Watch Bad Films and at Twitter at We Watch Bad Films. We also are very grateful as a number of donations have come in through the Ko-fi website, ko-fi/WWBF pod. Thank you so much, all of those of you that have sent us some shekels. We will use it to get rentals on sites for other films that are a bit more obscure that we can get between us and find out real gems. Are they gems or are they anti-gems? I don't know. One of those, but thank you anyway. We're going to look for stuff in our library to get hold of, so thanks very much for that. Jay, what have you been watching this week?
I have watched a film that I've watched before, but only once before and only recently. And I just wanted to watch it again. And it's a film that I'd never heard of when I first saw it, which was in Berlin a couple of years ago in a really cool little cinema around the corner from where I was staying. And they just happened to have this particular film on, and I went in and watched it. And it is called Dave Made a Maze. Have you heard of it?
No. What on earth is it?
Yeah, that's what I thought when I first sort of saw it written down in the cinema. It's exactly what it says on the tin. Dave Made a Maze. It's about Dave. He lives with his girlfriend, and who is called Annie, and he's a bit of a slacker. The relationship's not going particularly well, mainly because he's a slacker. She's been out for the day, and he's been at home, and he's been fiddling around doing stuff, making stuff. And then he all of a sudden decides to make a maze out of cardboard. You kind of have to go with that, really, because that's the plot.
Okay.
But the maze, he gets stuck in it. So she comes home and she says she sees this huge thing made out of cardboard in her living room. She's like, hello, Dave, what have you done? Can you come out, please? And he says, yeah, kind of can't come out. I'm actually lost and trapped inside the maze that I've just made. And she's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Just come outside of this thing that you've made. She tries to knock the maze, and you can hear all this rumbling and there's steam coming out of it. Basically, it's fantastical, and he's made this maze, and it's so complicated that actually it's almost infinite in size, but inside, you know, like the TARDIS from Doctor Who. I'm sure everyone knows what the TARDIS is.
I'm aware of it, yes.
Yeah, it's like that. So it's a fantastical story, but it's a bit like, it's a comedy. It's a bit like Shaun of the Dead, that sort of setup without the zombies, but
Yeah, that horror comedy vibe.
yeah. So it's set in the real world. It's a comedy about a guy and a slacker guy and his girlfriend, but there's a fantastical element to it. So she invites some of his friends round, and they go into this maze to try and get him. And so when they go inside this maze, like I said, it's huge, and there's all these rooms and contraptions, and everything is made out of cardboard. I'm just trying to tell you the plot here, basically, but it's not just about the plot, it's the way it looks. It's so well done. It's brilliant.
It sounds like something from Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, there's a Minotaur, which is something that I can imagine Guillermo del Toro doing. I mean, he did the Labyrinth, didn't he? Pan's Labyrinth.
He did. Now, as you mentioned, the Minotaur, I was just looking up the cast list while you were talking, and there's a couple of interesting cameos in there, and some might not mean anything to you. So the Minotaur himself is played by John Hennigan, and he is a wrestler. Wrestlers have come up before. Dave Bautista in Army of the Dead. John Hennigan, usually known as John Morrison, and other names depending on where he wrestled, but he's wrestling right now for WWE as John Morrison. Same age as me, but he has the most incredible body. He's known for it. Fantastic physique, good high flyer, good character, good guy. So I was quite surprised to see that. I didn't realise he'd done any acting work, but it doesn't surprise me because he's quite charismatic. How does the Minotaur come across? Does he do any reverse somersaults?
No, but he's very menacing, so I can see that. I can see that. It also stars one of the guys, one of his friends is Tim Nordwind, who is the bass player from OK Go. Do you know that band?
I do. I know them very well. I was going to say the same thing. I just spotted that. That's another strange. That must be. He must be a friend of the cast. Surely, it's just been
Well,
roped in. It's a bit of an odd one.
it's a super low budget film, and I think it took them about 7 or 8 years to get it made from the beginning of the project to the end. And
Right.
the director sort of co-wrote it, and he and the writer based it on a lot of their own life. Not the labyrinth bit, but the characterizations and sort of some of the situations that the characters talk about. It's got some of the best production design I've seen in ages. Everything is made out of cardboard, so it's got this amazing handmade quality to it. It's unlike anything you'll ever see before. It's not like a perfect film, but it's great. It's one of those undiscovered gems. It kind of when I was watching it the other night, it kind of reminds me of Donnie Darko, where it's like it's unlike anything else. It's one of those indie gems that just exists outside of the mainstream, and if you know about it, then you really know about it, and it's just so unique. I think it's great.
It also stars Adam Bush as his friend Gordon. Adam Bush is a key villain in the series Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and
Yes.
he does barely anything. So it was quite interesting to see his name credited as well. So a really interesting cast considering how low budget it sounds. I see it took $35,000 gross worldwide, which is not a fortune. But I'm sure, like the way you're describing it, even though I've not heard of it, it's probably got a cult following of people that
Well,
watch it all the time.
it absolutely has, and that's why it was being shown at this particular cinema in Berlin. It was it's like a little boutique cinema, and it
Yeah,
was a
I
perfect
see it's
film.
free to watch on Prime Video. So those of you with an Amazon Prime membership can go and watch that right now. Certainly in the UK, I can't speak for other countries.
Yeah, I bought it on Blu-ray because I'm 3,000 years old. But I really love Blu-ray because I love extras. I love making of extras, and the making of extras of the Blu-ray is brilliant. I particularly love Arrow Films and Arrow Video,
Sure.
um, who are a company who make really good Blu-rays, and that's where I got it from. Because I love the film, but also because I wanted to see the extras. I mean, people listening to this may not even realize there used to be extras on things because you just don't get them anymore.
Well, the
But
sort of people that would listen to this would know that there are extras on things, I think. I mean, it's the lament of the digital age is that while we've got supreme access to many titles and many we don't have to pay additionally to our subscription fee, we can just watch. I do miss extras. I mean, one of the things we've watched many times by themselves are the Lord of the Rings appendices, which are superb and is how you do it.
yeah, it's how you do it. I remember watching Shaun of the Dead on DVD when that came out 3,000 years and 20 ago. And they were talking on the commentary about how excited they were to make the film, but they were even more excited to make the DVD and put all the extras in. And I remember them saying on the commentary, and what we're trying to do is almost outdo the Lord of the Rings DVD extras. We're trying to put as much in as possible. And I thought, that's just so cool. That is so cool. You get to buy a film and then you get all of this interactive stuff and information with it. You, you don't get that when you buy a book, do you? You don't get like recordings of the writer talking about how he wrote it and stuff. I just think it's great, and I think you're kind of losing out when we don't have these extras anymore. That's all I'm saying.
Well, see, if you read some books, you do, e.g., and you're not going to probably know this, but when you read Marianne Key's books, she puts a little bit in at the end of where she gets the inspiration from the story.
Yeah, I really know loads of her work. Not.
I thought you might.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. I will seek it out, as it's also a ripping hour and 20 minutes. Do love a tight running time.
Yeah, I think we've been watching quite a few things recently where they're all rubbish, but they're all basically normal films. Would you say that, Gary? They're all kind of normal. You kind of know where they're going. Basically, what we haven't watched in a long time is some crazy, batshit, foreign-made horror action weirdo films. What we haven't watched in a while.
No, we have watched quite a few of them, though. We don't really need to watch another one.
Well, you keep saying this, Gary, but I think really the mantle has fallen at our feet. If I'm to mix my metaphors, not even sure
Totally.
not sure what the metaphor is I'm going for there, but you know what I mean. It is our duty, our calling in life, to rummage through all the cack and maybe find some semi-decent ones. Anyway, we still got to rummage through the cack, and we're certainly going to rummage through some cack tonight.
Go on then.
The one that we're going to watch is called Plankton, also known as Creatures from the Abyss. Now, if that isn't B movie, I don't know what is.
It is a touch B movie. I mean, if you're going to name a terrifying creature of the sea, you don't really go for plankton, which are the sort of microbial beings that blue whales eat like 10 million of in one gulp.
Mollusk, the movie. Yeah.
Now, that's probably out there. That's next week, right? We seem to have a thing for underwater adventures.
Yeah, I don't know why, because I mean, Steven Spielberg, one of the most successful directors of all time, would tell you to your face if you asked him, never make a film on water.
No,
It's
I mean,
annoying.
we reviewed Shark Attack 3, we reviewed Cruel Jaws, we reviewed USS Indianapolis. We've got a little shark theme going on. So we're going to steer away from sharks and go for plankton.
Yeah, just bad things in the water, I think, is really what you can distill it down to. Distilled water. I've amused myself with that terrible. Yeah, move on from that.
Back in your box. Back in your box. Okay. Well, if I can find a trailer for this piece of trash, I'll put it up, and then you can listen to that. And meanwhile, me and Jay will watch it. So see you on the other side.
Carnivorous fish that live out of water. Do you know what that means? I have to drink something. Now you see why this ship has no crew?
Get me out of here!
So we've just watched Plankton, Creatures from the Abyss. Yeah, that was a film. In brief, a synopsis. Some teens sneak away on the Florida coast just for a bit of a sailing party. Bump into some spooky goings on, including a dismembered head in the water. They find a boat that appears to be empty. There's no one on it. So it's a very weird party boat science vessel thing. So they explore it. They find a guy in the boiler room who is unintelligible. He's speaking absolute gibberish. They settle down for the rest of the evening. Someone develops a sudden vomiting. Then they work out that there was all sorts of experiments going on this ship, and indeed there were killer plankton on board that slowly invade and take over the kids one by one. And at some point they work it out and some of them get off the ship and some of them die. That's it.
Yep, that's it. Killer plankton.
Yeah. Or as I wrote down, airplane crossed with the Thing.
Yeah, it's another very airplaney Abraham Zucker type film, really,
Yes,
but without
you said
meaning
this.
to be.
Yeah, you said this about Death Wish 3, didn't you?
Yeah.
Very strange. Yeah, I also really wished I was watching The Thing again, obviously the Kurt Russell version, John Carpenter, rather than watching this, because it sort of is an echo of that in plot.
Echo meaning rip-off.
Yes.
It's not really rip-off, because it's kind of quite visually unique, but the storyline is pretty.
That is the most generous thing I've ever heard.
Well, I mean, there are some things in this film which are WTF moments, and a lot of it is like, what I'm seeing on the screen is that seriously happening? And there are some things in this film which just look completely insane, and I think that's for the better. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it prevents it from being mundane. Let's put it that way, because it is, as with many of our films, ineptly made, but somehow adding these odd things in gives it a bit of charm. So they keep doing this thing near the beginning of the film where they cut to like an anglerfish with a giant tongue whipping around like a jump cut, which I think is supposed to show it's the sort of oncoming menace, but actually it looks like you've taped over something on VHS and it's cutting in and out.
Yeah, it really did look like that. There were so many weird edits at the beginning. I thought there was something wrong with what I was watching. Yeah, I agree. It's an Italian film, isn't it? It's an Italian film. All the actors are American and they're all speaking English, but which is dubbed. But I think they're actually dubbing their own voices for some reason. But it's an Italian production, and Alvaro Passeri is the director, who I looked up. His most, I suppose, lauded thing that he's done is he worked on the animation department of Cinema Paradiso.
What?
I know. I mean, you'd never think Cinema Paradiso and Plankton Creatures from the Abyss would join in a Venn diagram, but here it is, right in front of us.
Yeah, it's like he does that and thinks, you know what, I could do my own film, but none of that Cinema Paradiso rubbish. I'm going to set a sea creature and I'm going to spend £8 to make a film. Because that's one thing about this film. This film is cheap. Cheap face. The sets are so setty. They're just clearly like studio boxes, dressed. However, they've got a boiler room, which is just a room in the dark with a pipe in it. Whenever they're out on the boat on the sea, it's clearly a wet set because the thing is pitch black. You can't see anything around them, so they're just splashing about in a pond.
Yeah, with a fluorescent light bulb sort of hanging around them. Yeah, there's no money spent at all, and also it makes no sense, and it's completely mental. It's really sort of sexually leering, and it's a little bit misogynistic, which is not what I would classify Cinema Paradiso as. So, none of those things. But it's interesting. The same man worked on both films.
Yeah. Well, you say no money was spent, which it wasn't, but there was one tiny bit of money spent, and that was there's a prosthetic effect where this. And he is annoying, and I can't tell whether he's supposed to be the jock character or the comedian character, but he plays both those roles with some great jokes, which I think we'll come back to. Seduces one of the women that allowed themselves to be nude. And then mid-sex, in fact, not even mid-sex.
Mid-sex!
No, vinegar strokes. He's suddenly transforms into this alien-y monster. And the effect itself is quite good. Like the creature model they've built is quite good. But they've clearly built it in several different stages, or they've got a couple of different ones in different forms. But to get between them, they just do a white flash cut. So the screen flashes white and then goes to the next stage of the model rather than actually show it growing. That whole scene, if you ignore the fact it's mid-sex, is actually quite good.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it was totally unexpected. I mean, obviously, when it started happening, it was like, oh, here we go. But I didn't expect it to be quite the spectacle. And it really...
everything is poured at that scene.
Yeah. And there's some other ones as well, some other scenes which come later, which I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they've bothered to do this.
Such as what?
Well, the sort of the showdown monster, which is all stop motion animation. It's like Ray Harryhausen's ghost is reanimated. It was really unexpected from a film from 1990.
Yeah, I mean, it looks okay,
I mean,
but again, totally jarring.
Yeah, it looks rubbish and it's totally jarring, but it's like, wow. I mean, with stop motion animation, you don't just film it flapping around, do you? Someone has to sit there for weeks doing that. It's like there's some effort has gone into that, and it's very, it has a charm to it. Stop motion animation.
The pacing of it and the overall effect kind of reminded me a bit of Rock and Roll Nightmare, a film we reviewed way back, season 1, episode 13, that has this strange kitschy vibe, that same teenagers getting picked off one by one, and then some stop motion at the end.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, and it's also batshit crazy.
That too.
Yeah, and also there's another scene. Do you remember this scene? I can't remember exactly what was going on because I was confused by. I seem to always be confused by these films, but I think that's part of the film's problem, not mine. Where a monster is appearing and they cut to it, and all of a sudden this weird animated fish flies at the camera. Do you remember that scene? And it reminded me of something out of Ghostbusters, one of those effect shots. I mean, yet again, this is high praise. It's nothing like Ghostbusters, but the effect shot, it was a different type of effect. It was the kind of effect that they used on Ghostbusters, which was like that sort of wishy-washy, wavy, misty type, almost animated effect. I don't know, it looked really weird, but it was like they pulled out all these different techniques for these effects, and it's like, wow, you've gone to a lot of effort there. It looks rubbish. I can't fault the effort. And it's like, oh, that's surprising, all these little nuggets of poo. Like, you've tried, you failed, but you've tried.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but you're right, they've got one of everything in it. Can I go back to that jock comedian guy? So he's annoying, but you think, oh well, he's kind of supposed to be. He's not very nice guy in the crowd. That's all right. But at one point he tells a joke and it's really bad, and everybody in the with him finds it funny, and yet you think they're not supposed to find it funny. They're supposed to find it like, oh, go away. But no, they find it actually laugh out loud funny. Do you remember what the joke is?
Oh God, I've got so many of his quotes written down. I mean, and they're all pretty mental.
Well,
I can't
the one I'm thinking of is, he says,
You know what the difference is between a blowjob and a ham sandwich? No? No, give up. Nope.
Okay, what?
Let's have dinner tonight, I'll show you.
and everybody falls about like it's not just some sex pest line, but it's actually really funny. And it's like it's not even doesn't even a functional joke really.
All of their dialogue is overdubbed for some reason. I'm not sure why. Maybe they didn't have a sound recorder there on the set, but it's the same actors doing it, and sometimes it sounds like they're sort of making it up in the actual recording room. Did you get that sense? It's like, and it's almost like they're a bit drunk on the day that they were recording it. So that might be
making it up. It's that they're doing high level improv. That's what you mean, isn't
it? When it first starts, it first starts as a cold cut, and it just starts in the middle of some action. They're dragging a boat off the beach into the water, and there's so much overdubbed dialogue, and they're talking over each other, and they're saying these random stupid things. It sounded so weird when it first started, and then you get all these weird sort of edits of a fish. And I thought there was something wrong with the film. I thought, what's wrong with the audio? Why is everyone talking over each other?
Since when are you so romantic?
Hey, out to sea we go. Drop the anchor. Hey, virgins, beware.
Oh, you're still a virgin?
Yeah, virgin? Yeah, I'll give you my virgin. Come over here. I'm gonna come over here. Your ass is mine.
And as the film goes on, I was thinking, they're just all in the room together, aren't they, around a microphone, and they're probably just chatting and drinking and stuff between takes, and they're all a bit sort of tipsy and making up stuff and improving. It's quite a strange effect.
I think the whole thing is a strange effect. I think one of the first lines is something like, "See you later, Miami," or something like that. And then in the credits, it says the producers wish to thank the city of Miami, Florida. And I'm thinking, I don't see a single real bit of city in it. It's not a real location anywhere.
No, it's weird. It's really weird.
Maybe it gave them a tax dodge by doing that. I don't know.
I can't allow you to move away from the jock joke character without saying some of his lines. Oh, there's one that needs I really want you to do it because you're much better at impressions than me. There's one where he's doing an Elvis voice. Do you remember him doing an Elvis impression?
Yes.
And he does it. I mean, you'll do this much better. Let me just find what it says. Oh yeah,
feed me the
he's
line.
doing an Elvis impression, and he says off camera, he says,
"All my life I've been alone. Oh, baby. But now I got something to hold on to, baby. Oh, baby."
He also says things like, "We could have great fun with our friends on this yacht, and at night, what orgies!"
and nobody thinks to just push this guy in the sea. Nobody.
He can just continually talks about sex and wanting to have sex with the girls. Literally.
Yeah, I've got another sex-related line where somebody says, "How long have you been fucking fish?" And then they reply, "Well, they were old enough." What?
Right at the end, another character, it must be the old guy who doesn't really say anything, says a line that I literally couldn't believe that I heard. I'm going to say this line to you, Gary. Now tell me if you heard this line. I hope you did, because otherwise I've made it up myself. But I'm pretty sure, and it's a horrible line, I'm quite scared to say it, but I'm going to say it. Someone says, right in the kerfuffle at the end, there's explosions and people talking and loads of stuff going on the audio, and a voice says from one of the characters, "There's more pussy on the planet if we can save it." and I was like, sorry, what? Did I just hear someone say that? And I wrote it down. And
it's altruistic.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that?
No, I don't remember that. You invented it.
Right. Well, in the edit, we're going to find that. That is your job. We're going to find that line. Someone says it, I swear.
And if it doesn't happen, then Anthony Daniels is going to come up and say that it didn't happen.
I'm sorry, but there's no pussy quote in this. It's going to work either way, I think. If you can find the quote, it will work, and if Anthony Daniels has to appear, it will also work.
Leave her alone. There's more pussy in the planet if we can save it.
Let's move it along with more quotes, such as, she's scared of the night, it gives her nightmares. So, quite appropriate.
What about when Mullet Man says to the girls, who are completely... We'll get to the girls in a minute. You stay here. Don't touch anything. Nothing will happen to you. Meaning something will happen to you. One of the girls says to the other girls, I'm sorry I slapped you before.
Oh, that slapping bit. That was straight out of Airplane.
At it anymore. I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Stewardess, please let me handle this.
I've got to get
Calm down. Now get back to your seat. I'll take care of this. Calm down. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Doctor, you're wanted on the phone. Everything's gonna be all right. Please.
Sister, please, I'll handle this.
Yourself.
I've got to get out of here. Out of here. Out of here. I've got to get out of here.
Another one. What a stink! He must have peed in his pants.
Well, how about the bit of Gem? Storms don't happen in the summer. No. Well known. You never get storms in hot weather, do
I
you?
remember that, which is completely wrong. In Florida, yes, they do. All
Particularly
the time.
Florida.
In Italy, yes, they do all the time. So I don't know what that means. What about when one of the girls says to the other one, you have a strange way of sleeping with your legs apart and no panties on.
Oh, yeah, all that weird bunk bed malarkey. That was all strange. How about so the exposition bit of the film, when they figure out it's like bad stuff, someone says, what are those? And a clever guy says, some fish cells. How do you know that? I studied biology at school. Oh, so you can identify fish cells.
Well, he's wearing
biology.
glasses, Gary, so that means
he's a
he's
clever one.
highly intelligent. Yeah,
It's highly intelligent.
yeah, and so there are three girls, and the two girls who continually only wear bikinis in this film are the ones who always want to or are likely to have sex or getting their tits out, literally. And the one woman who's wearing from neck all the way down to the ankles, fully clothed, she never wants to have sex, and she's the one who's engaged. So there's the difference there. The man with the glasses and the mullet, he's wearing glasses, so he's intelligent. The other one is the jock, so he doesn't wear glasses.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You've nailed all the characters there.
Yeah. Can we get on to tits, please?
Well, okay, you can go on to tits if you want.
Well, I was writing notes all the way through the film, just to really help me work out what the hell was going on. And I've written the word tits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 times, not including naked ladies in showers and weird fishy sex.
Yeah, it was. It's got B movie all over it.
Yeah, and the women who are wearing bikinis, like I said, are at any moment are likely to get 1 or 2 or even all of their parts of their clothing off and their titties and other bits out, which is interesting.
That is interesting. I'll tell you how different our minds work, Jay. So you were busy, counting all the nipples on the screen. There was a scene where I was really interested when the guy opens the fridge, right? And I looked at all the products in the fridge, and there are some quite obscure products in the fridge, but I looked at them all. So I saw Tuck biscuits.
Yes.
Which are little yellow,
yes.
salty sweet biscuits that you often have by themselves or perhaps with cheese.
Some
Wilkin and Sons jam, which you find down the road from where we live. Tiptree jam, yes. Kickerman soy sauce.
Yes, I've got
and
it
French's mustard. Mustard. So, I mean, the one that got me was Tuck biscuits, because I don't think I've ever seen them outside of cheap supermarkets ever.
Well, no, the thing that got me was Tiptree jam in an Italian film set in Florida. What the hell?
Thanks to the city of Miami. Yes, I didn't catch the flavour, sadly, but in the mid-90s, they probably only had strawberry, didn't they, or blackberry?
Gary, do you want to explain what Tiptree Jam is? Wilkin and Sons. Explain.
Well, I don't really know. You've pretty much said it all. It's a company that's in at Essex, although they are sent around the world, the producers of jam, amongst other preserves and other things they do. Wilkin and Sons, but everyone calls them Tiptree because that's where they're from. Yeah, you often find them in posh hotels. They do tiny little jars the size of your thumb. You'll get with your breakfast, things like that. But just to see them in a random film was took me out of it. Oh, it's completely ruined my suspension of disbelief.
Well, it's the kind of thing you'd see in a bed and breakfast in the English countryside. It's such a small little town in Essex in England that it's really weird to see it on an Italian American horror schlock film in a fridge. It's so weird.
Yeah, and I have the feeling this might be the segment we're talking most about the film, is a pot of jam.
Pot of jam and tits.
Another one of his alternate titles, is it?
Yeah, it's got about 5. Yeah, the girls in this film, I do want to touch on the faint whiff of misogyny. The girls, if they're not getting their tits out or screaming, they are literally being completely useless or being told to cook.
I was going to say, you missed out the key cooking scene that they had to do.
What, flaming frying pan?
Yeah.
Flaming fish. Yeah, the woman's cooking a fish over what looks like the aperture of Mount Doom. There's so much. It's like an explosion of flame that she just puts this frying pan on top of. It's like you might as well be cooking over a jet engine. It's so ridiculous.
But you know, because they're incompetent, they end up bringing the plankton into everyone else.
Oh yeah, because she eats a fish, and obviously, when you're going onto a random boat in the middle of the sea with no one on it, the first thing you look for is there any fish on board that I can eat? Which isn't going to, probably really, really going to be rank and make you feel sick.
No, fish lasts a long time. It's well known. You can keep fish for weeks on the radiator. It's good.
Oh my God, I was watching it though, Gary. Don't you think that the set must have absolutely stunk? There was so much dead fish everywhere, and like weird seafoody bits, and I'm pretty sure there was a scene where there's like caviar coming out of someone's underwear.
Yes. What's that all about?
I certainly saw some caviar coming out from underneath the door. Do you remember that? Oh God, the set must have stunk.
Yeah, I feel a bit ill now. I don't really fancy any more Tiptree Jam.
Okay, well, on that vein, what about Puke Cam?
Yeah, that was almost good actually. There's camera tracks from foot level looking up, and then the character vomits on it.
right into the camera. Yeah, again, I had never seen anything like that before, and I was not expecting it. She vomits right into your face. The vomit looks quite interesting. It looks like, I thought it looked like scrambled egg and lemon curd.
Yeah, but then to put beetles in it as well, I thought it was pretty gross and pretty well done actually.
And then an hour passes and they do all other things and other stuff happens, and they come back into the room. The puke's still on the floor, which I suppose I'm surprised because it shows absolute commitment to continuities, which is, you know, it would still be on the floor, wouldn't it? Because they haven't cleaned it up. But when did that ever happen in films?
Yeah, which means we're not giving this film enough credit, to be honest.
Exactly. Talking about credit, can I just say, when they first got onto the boat, which kind of looks like a porn set and also a laboratory, it's really weird. But when they get into the lab set, I thought it looked quite good. And I wrote down Blade Runner-esque.
I'm not sure if that's quite right.
You know the scene in Blade Runner where he goes to the Asian guy who makes the eyeballs and he lives in the freezer?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Kind of look like that, don't you think?
I suppose. I think you're giving it a lot of credit, or you were just scrambling for anything decent. I think you overdosed on jam, to be honest.
Oh my God, I ate the bad fish. It is like Airplane.
It is. It is. Do you have the chicken or the fish?
I mean, there's so many crazy things that go on. And then a little golden lamp, Gary. Don't know if you noticed. Golden lamp. Little
No.
light bulb. No?
No.
Don't want to talk
Missed
about
that.
that, Gary, no?
I missed it.
Oh, yeah. Sure you did. You just want me to talk about it.
I've just realised what you're talking about. Yes.
Oh,
right.
yes.
Well,
Regale
just
us,
the
Gary.
last thing I thought it was a lamp. Yeah.
Regale us with what I'm talking about, Gary. Tell the listeners what this lamp looks like, what it's shaped like.
Well, it's sort of a fertility idol, isn't it? Yeah.
That's a nice way of putting it. It's a golden gnome with a huge cock.
That lights up when you touch it.
And one of the characters, one of the women, certainly does touch it repeatedly up and down. There's so much going on in this film. Actually, the more we're talking about, the more I realise how insane it is. There's a couple of things I don't want to mention because they're interesting. They are interesting, but I want to mention because I actually want to know what the hell's going on, Gary, and I want you to tell me. What was going on with the picture of the fish on the wall in the corridor?
Oh, yeah.
Every time they walked past it, it made a noise and started speaking to them, but they completely ignored it.
So, yeah, that was like something out of Jim Henson's Labyrinth that would say something a bit silly or rude every time they walked past. And I was sure there was going to be a payoff to that, in fact, but I also knew that they wouldn't bother to pay it off. And yeah, it really needed one, didn't it? It was like an animated wall fresco.
Yeah, and then the talking, sexy shower slut.
Yeah, so the ship had like a ship's computer voice that would talk and sort of insult you a bit as well.
Use your fingers.
Yeah.
Use your fingers. This sexy shower robot in one scene. I mean, I can't even explain what's going on, but this sexy shower robot voice continually says the phrase, use your fingers, use your fingers, use your fingers, about 50 times. It's mental. I just wanted to know what how that was. And then, Gary, the last thing I want to ask you about, what the hell is the strange evacuation announcer voice as the finale is happening and the ship's about to explode? There's that weird voice coming through the PA going, there is 5 seconds, you've got to get out, everyone get out now, which is like a computer, right? What the hell is that? What's going on? Tell me.
Well, that was the bit of Alien that they wanted to rip off, I think.
Danger! Danger! Eternity -5. You have 5 minutes to evacuate. Evacuate. Red alert! Red alert! Is anyone listening? I still hear footsteps.
It was just a guy talking over the PA, like saying phrases like, you've all got to get out now. You've got 5 minutes left. Make sure you're
Wasn't very formal, was it? Wasn't very formal. Jay, can you recommend Plankton, Creatures from the Abyss?
Oh, I mean, I think I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, I'm about 60% yes. I mean, it's
Yeah.
terrible, proper terrible, but terrible enough that it's out of this world mad.
It's so, I mean, you've just listened to us talking about it. Has that made sense to you in any way? Probably not. It's not made any sense to us. There's so many weird facets to it, little gems that you probably have to sort of watch again and realize, oh, wow, they chose to do that. It's also, in some sections, quite boring, which is like most of these films. But on a whole, I think it is worth watching. It's just mental.
It is pretty mental. Well, Jay, thanks for talking about that. I hope you can all join us next time when we watch another bad film so you don't have to. Thanks very much, Jay.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And goodbye.